There's a common belief that cars today just don't last as long as the ones built decades ago. While modern vehicles are packed with advanced technology, better safety features, and improved fuel efficiency, many people feel that they simply aren't as durable or reliable as the older models that could rack up hundreds of thousands of miles with basic maintenance. So what's changed? Several key factors contribute to why cars today often don't last as long as they used to, and in this video, we'll take a look at the reasons for this. Watch to the end to hear probably the one single factor contributing to decreasing reliability that you can actually do something about. A big reason cars don't last as long these days is all the fancy features and high-tech gadgets packed into them. Older cars were mostly mechanical, so as long as you kept up with the maintenance, they could keep running forever. But today's vehicles are loaded with computers, sensors, and software that makes things more convenient but also gives you way more chances for something to break. Take something as simple as headlights. Older cars had a basic switch, and that was it. Now you've got automatic light sensors, electronic control modules, and software making the choices for you. The headlights turn on and off by themselves, and often auto-level continuously as you drive around. If any of that goes bad, it's not just a cheap fix. You might need a specialized repair or a complete replacement, which means more money and hassle. And it's not just electronics. Modern cars come with all kinds of luxury features, like heated and ventilated seats, massaging functions, and fancy adjustable suspensions. These are awesome when they work, but they rely on complex wiring and computer modules that wear out over time. Fixing a broken heated seat isn't as simple as replacing a switch. It could mean digging into the car's electrical system or tearing the seat apart to replace the heating element, which isn't cheap. Then there are turbocharged engines. They give you more power and better fuel efficiency, but they also put more stress on engine components. Turbos run hot and work under high pressure, meaning if you don't stay on top of maintenance, they can fail and cost a fortune to fix. Older, naturally aspirated engines were simpler and built to last, with fewer high-stress parts to worry about. Even the big touchscreen infotainment systems and digital dashboards add to the problem. Unlike old-school gauges and buttons that could last decades, these screens can glitch out, get dead pixels, or just become outdated when the manufacturer stops updating the software. And once that happens, even basic functions in the car can start acting up. So while modern cars are more comfortable, powerful, and high-tech than ever, all these extra features and electronics make them harder to keep on the road long-term. Instead of a simple fix, you're looking at expensive repairs, software issues, or even parts that just aren't worth replacing. Many modern vehicles rely heavily on plastic components, even in areas that experience a lot of heat and stress. Parts like intake manifolds, coolant reservoirs, and even engine covers that used to be made from metal are now often plastic. Some cars even have plastic oil pans now. While this helps cut weight and cost, plastic becomes brittle over time, especially when exposed to heat cycles and engine vibrations. Cracks and leaks can develop, leading to expensive repairs or even catastrophic failures if a crucial component gives out. Suspension systems have also taken a hit from cost-cutting measures. Older cars had beefier suspension components made from thick steel, but today's vehicles use more aluminum and thinner metal parts, which can bend or break more easily, especially in areas with rough roads or harsh winters. Ball joints, control arms, and bushings wear out faster, leading to more frequent replacements and alignment issues. Even body panels and paint quality have been affected. Many newer cars use thinner sheet metal to save weight and cost, which makes them more susceptible to dents, dings, and rust. Some manufacturers have also switched to lower quality paint formulas that have fewer harmful chemicals that chip or fade more quickly, especially in extreme climates. While these changes help automakers hit fuel economy targets and keep production costs down, they often mean more modern cars don't hold up as well over time compared to their older, more solidly built counterparts. When you combine all these factors, lighter materials, more complex engines, and cost-saving measures, it's easy to see why many modern cars just don't last as long these days. With manufacturers trying to meet high production quotas and cut costs, it's not uncommon for some cars to end up with parts that aren't quite up to standard. Even within the same model and year, the quality of parts can vary depending on the supplier, and sometimes a batch of parts might have tiny defects that aren't caught in time. This can lead to issues like oil leaks, engine stalling, or loss of power, problems that could have been avoided with better checks along the way. Also, the fast pace of production often puts workers under a lot of pressure, which can lead to human error. A worker might forget to tighten something properly or miss an important step in the assembly process. While it might not be noticeable right away, these small mistakes can cause bigger problems down the line, and over time, they can really shorten the lifespan of the car. Even after the car leaves the factory, automakers don't always follow up on quality as much as they should. Sometimes, Cars end up with recalls for issues that should have been caught earlier, showing that the manufacturing process wasn't as thorough as it should have been. While some brands do better than others at keeping quality high, when quality control slips, it can lead to bigger, more expensive issues down the road, cutting down on how long the car can actually last. Automakers know consumers are more interested in buying new cars than keeping their old ones running forever. The focus has shifted from building cars that can last decades to making cars that are more appealing for a quick sale. With car buyers constantly looking for the latest models, features, and tech, manufacturers have realized that they can sell more cars by designing them to last just long enough to get the average consumer to trade in or upgrade before they face major issues. This planned obsolescence, so to speak, has led to manufacturers prioritizing style, performance, and new tech over long-term durability. Instead of building cars with overbuilt components that could easily handle hundreds of thousands of miles, the focus has shifted to creating vehicles that will perform well for the first 5 to 10 years, just enough time for most people to want a new car. Plus, with the rise of lease agreements and financing options, consumers are encouraged to get a new car every few years, which further discourages automakers from focusing on longevity. Even the marketing behind new cars plays into this. Automakers often push the idea of upgrading to the latest model with new features and better performance, which makes it harder for consumers to resist buying new. As a result, manufacturers don't feel the need to build cars that will last as long as the older models, knowing that consumers will likely want to move on to something newer before those older cars need major repairs. If you take a look at the recommended maintenance schedule for a car from 20 years ago, you'll quickly notice a huge difference compared to today's vehicles. Back then, cars needed more frequent fluid changes. Things like oil, transmission fluid, coolant, and brake fluid were all swapped out regularly to keep everything running smoothly. Back in the day, changing the oil every 3,000 miles and the transmission fluid every 30,000 miles was standard practice. Now, they recommend waiting 10,000 or even 15,000 miles between oil changes and pretty much leave everything else untouched. Not only that, most of these recommendations are for ideal operating conditions, which, if you read the fine print, is like driving the car at 55 miles per hour with no short trips, stop-and-go traffic, cargo, luggage, or towing, and so on, and is subsequently pretty much no one. Any mechanic will tell you to change your oil every 5,000 miles or less, and it's not because they're getting rich on your $75 oil change. Regular maintenance was key to keeping a car in good shape, and the more you took care of it, the longer it lasted. But now, with newer cars, many automakers claim that fluids like transmission fluid or power steering fluid are lifetime fluids, meaning they don't need to be replaced for the life of the car. While this sounds great on paper and gives the impression of less maintenance and lower costs, it's actually a risky move for longevity. Many of these lifetime fluids can break down over time, losing their ability to properly lubricate, cool, and protect critical parts. For example, transmission fluid can wear out and lead to shifting problems or even a complete transmission failure if it's never replaced. In addition, manufacturers have made some parts, like spark plugs, air filters, and even brake pads, last longer than before, but that doesn't mean they last forever. While it's great to have fewer service visits, skipping regular fluid changes and part replacements can lead to sludge buildup, poor performance, or even catastrophic breakdowns when parts are under stress. So even though newer cars are built to go longer between services, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll last as long if the owner doesn't stay on top of preventative maintenance. By treating everything as lifetime, cars can be running on borrowed time without the kind of care older cars used to get, which can shorten their overall lifespan. Thankfully, anyone can have these same services performed regularly and greatly increase their car's longevity. The complexity of modern cars undoubtedly leads to more repairs. It only makes sense that the more systems and electronics a car has, the more opportunities there are for something to go wrong. However, a major part of the problem comes down to a lack of proper maintenance. Many people today follow the manufacturer's extended service intervals, or assume that modern cars require less upkeep. But in reality, regular maintenance is still crucial. In fact, preventative maintenance is more important now than ever before. If we maintain cars the same way we used to, changing fluids more frequently and staying on top of wear and tear components, they would last much longer, even with advancements in oil technology and engineering. While modern materials and synthetic oils have improved, neglecting routine service accelerates wear and shortens a car's lifespan, especially in the days of powerful small displacement engines, forced induction, and 10-speed transmissions.